Greetings and salutations. So recently I purchased a 12-volt refrigerator for an upcoming trip I'm taking with my son. I decided to go with a refrigerator instead of using the cooler that I used last year. So let's head out to the RV and I'll show you the cooler, and then I'll come back in and I'll show you the other cooler that I used and why I'm not going to use those this year. I'll meet you out here at the bus. So here's the, I don't even know how big this thing is, 72 quarts. It's pretty big. It doesn't even say. But it is certified bear resistant. Oh, it's a 77 quart. It says right there. 77 quarts. It's got a bottle opener. It holds a lot of beverages. This is the piece of kit that I brought with me that I kept inside the truck. This is an Igloo 12-volt cooler. I don't know how many quarts this is, but it's, you know, pretty good sized cooler. You notice the cord here. Has some sort of a device here. This plugs into here somehow. This plugs into your power port / cigarette lighter port. And this thing runs, and as it runs, it keeps things inside this cooler cool without any ice. For best performance, they recommend you pre-chill the contents. So what I would do is I would take the sodas and the water and stuff that was in the iced cooler, and I would put it in here, plug this in, and while I'm on the road or while I'm bombing around the trails, this would keep my soda and my water cold all day long into the night. The only problem with that is that if you turn the power off, it stops working. And this does not keep stuff frozen. It keeps it about 20 to 30 degrees cooler than ambient. So if it's 80 degrees or 75 degrees in your car, you're looking at 50 to 45 degrees, and it really doesn't get any cooler than that. This is the whole device. I'm not sure what kind of voodoo magic they use to make this thing work, but it works. Great for day tripping. So if, you know, we go out on, take a day drive, go up like we did. When did we do that? Oh, during the Christmas break. And I took the boys up to Dinosaur Valley State Park. Took that. I kept their stuff cold. Didn't have to bring any ice. It was awesome. It takes up a reasonable amount of space. And it only works if it's plugged in. And you can't keep stuff frozen. You can't bring ice cream with you. And you can't keep frozen meat frozen. That's the downside. But it holds a lot of stuff. And like I said, it works. And those are cheap. They're like 70 bucks. Not too bad. So let's go look at the fridge. This is a 59 quart freezer. Let me pull it out so we can get a better look at it. Has wheels. Go handle. Check this out. So inside you got these metal baskets. There's a drain down at the bottom. Here's the AC power. Notice that this one's shorter. There's an actual compressor, and all the refrigeration stuff that's in your normal refrigerator in your house is directly under this. You can operate these two sections independently. You can use this as a freezer, and this is a refrigerator, or this is a freezer, or this is a refrigerator, or both of them is a refrigerator or a freezer. How awesome is that? And look, it has its own cutting board. How convenient. Look at that. That's kind of floppy. And the door is reversible. You can move this over to here so it opens the other way, and that's how I'm going to set it up, I think. This is a Euhomy. 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 It's one of those. And again, it's one of those Chinese manufacturers that builds the same product for 6 or 7 different companies. They license it out, and it's there's several different brands that use this exact model. They use the same app. There's an app that you use to use this thing, because the user interface here is not very intuitive. There's an app on my phone that I can control the temperature of both chambers. It lets me know if there's if it shuts off. And this is the reason that I put this power port in here. Now this is hot all the time. This is 2 USB ports and the DC 12 volt port that this will plug into. But wait, there's a reason why I chose this particular model and this particular, well, there's a couple reasons why I chose this particular model. They offered this in a 37 quart and a, what is this one? 59 quart. And there was only like $40 difference. So I got the bigger one. I kind of regret doing that now. But here's the main reason why I chose this particular model. Back here, you've got your 12 volt to 24 volt in here. This is what you put your power port into. Coincidentally, it's also where you put the 120 volt. You can also hook up a solar battery bank, like a solar generator. You can hook that into there. But it also has a detachable lithium-ion battery. It's a smart battery too. See, it's not dumb at all. It's very smart. Here's why I wanted one with a battery. I don't want to leave this plugged in when we're out in the wilderness and have it drain the car battery down so we're stranded. And 3, that's really the reason why. I wanted a battery so I could unplug it and not have to worry about draining the battery. Which is also why I built this. This is my battery generator. I know it looks like a convoluted mess, but there's 2 batteries in here, and they're independent of each other, not hooked in series. These are 10S 4P batteries. One is an 8.8 amp hour, and the other one is 6 amp hour. The 6 amp hour is made with new batteries. This one is made from recycled hoverboard batteries. Not that hoverboard specifically, but a few years ago I bought a couple hoverboard batteries. Well, you can find those battery packs online for about $45, and there's 20 individual cells. Is it 20? Yeah, 10S2P. So there's 20 individual cells in each one of those battery packs, and this is essentially 2 of those battery packs and the equivalent. I made these with a battery management system, and the 8 amp hour battery is running 36 volts out, and the other one goes through this DC to DC converter, and it's running 12 volts from 36 to 12 volts out, and that's what powers these. Here's your charger ports, and this is a 36 volt, this cord that I made, 36 volt out that plugs in here. Let's see if it does this without blowing up the damn thing. This is live action, folks. I haven't tested this previously. So that plugs there, and this plugs in here. Let's see if it works. Well, I'm just going to assume, because I got 36 volts, that solar input is 12 to 60 volts. It's rated for 12 to 60 volts, or 12 to 50 volts. These are 36 volt batteries. I've got one battery going 36 volts directly into the thing. I'm assuming that's going and top off the battery. That's what I'm assuming. But maybe I'll leave this out here and see how long it'll run in the garage. I have the refrigerator set for 42 degrees and the freezer set for 0. And I'll check back with you in a little bit and see how this thing is doing. All right, I have the AC power supply plugged up, powered on, and I'm going to show that I have power at the plug. There's polarity. .57 volts. I'm going to show the fuse. The fuse is good. I'll test it, make sure it's good. Continuity test. There, plugged in. Won't turn on. Battery's powered up. I'll power it down. I'll install it. Power it back up. Compressor just kicked on. It won't turn on. All right, so it's been a month since that last clip, and this is what happened. I believe we're all going to laugh about this in the end, but it wasn't very funny at the time. I came out here after about a half an hour, 45 minutes to check on the refrigerator to see how she was doing, and it was shut off. So I reached behind the thing and pushed the battery back on. It came back to life. It ran for a few seconds, shut back off. And then F1 was displayed on a display up here. So I thought, well, never mind. I pulled the battery out and I got the AC power supply and I plugged that in. I plugged it into the extension cord there and it didn't turn on. It would run on the battery, but it wouldn't run on AC power. I checked the voltage and it was outputting 14.5 volts. So I knew the power was getting to the plug, but it wasn't powering up the fridge. So I sent the manufacturer, Euhomy, or however you say that name, I sent them an email, customer service. Told them what was going on, told them what the F1 displayed, and I waited for a response. They asked me to do some things. I did those things, like reset at the factory, and they were kind of hung up on the F1 thing, you know. They were kind of convinced that the thing wasn't working because I had things set wrong, and it says here in the manual, once I started getting into it and looking at it, F1, it says right here in the manual, code F1 displayed, possible cause, low voltage to fridge, and the remedy is to adjust the battery protection from high to medium or medium to low. And if you go back a couple of pages to page 4 in the manual, it says, it gives the battery voltage cut in and cut outs at 12 volts, 24 volts, because this will work like in a semi-truck. It'll run on 24 volts too. So on high mode at 12 volts, the cutout voltage is 11.1 volts. And when the fridge is running, it doesn't take long for it to come down to 11.1 volts. So the thing probably ran for 15, 20 minutes and shut off as soon as it reached 11.1 volts. At medium, it's 10.1 volts, and at low, it's 8.5 volts. So if they recommended that you put it on the low setting and on eco mode, and it'll run the battery from 12 volts, 12.4 volts at a fully charged battery down to 8.5 volts before it shuts off. You'll get the longest run time that way. But my issue wasn't so much the F1 code, because that went away as soon as I charged the battery. The issue was that I wasn't getting power into the fridge from the power adapter, from the 110 outlet. This went on over the course of over a week. And I started thinking, well, maybe there's a bad solder joint on the board. Maybe there's a broken wire or an unplugged wire. I'll take the inspection cover off the thing and get inside and take a look and see if there's anything disconnected, which I did. And I didn't see anything disconnected, so I took my phone, because my 57-year-old eyes don't work so good, and I couldn't get my face close enough for these eyes to work to see the board. So I took my phone and I stuck it in there, and I took a picture of the board, and then I could, use technology. I blew the picture up and I could see, and this is what I saw. Yeah, that's a burnt transistor. So I sent them that photo, and I told them, that if they could send me out another board, I'm fairly confident I could put it back together. And they agreed. So they said, well, we'll contact the factory and we'll get a part out to you as soon as possible. We'll email you with a tracking number. And they did. By the time I got the tracking number, I was already in Death Valley. So I knew that the part was going to come in time. So I started thinking about, well, is there a workaround? One thing I noticed is that the port that the battery plugs into only has 2 wires. If you look at the battery, there's multiple pins on the battery, but there's only 2 wires that come out of the battery port and go to the board. Those have spade connectors that plug into the board. So I made a power cord with a pigtail on it, so I could plug a cigarette lighter adapter into a cigarette lighter and still be able to use the battery. You get what I'm saying? This is what that pigtail looks like. So this is the main board that all the power comes in. This is the power distribution board, I guess you would call it. I unplugged the wires from the battery port that you plug the battery into the back of the fridge. I unplugged those wires. I made this power cord that you could disconnect this from, and I just let this hang out the back of the refrigerator from one of the vents, and then I plugged the battery port wires from the refrigerator into these spade connectors, so I could run this off the car or off my homemade battery pack. To be perfectly honest with you, it worked flawlessly. It had no issues at all. And Death Valley is probably where you should take things if you want to really torture test them, because that will beat the hell out of your vehicle and anything that's in it, including you. That's some rough terrain, man, and that thing took it. We were gone for 9 days, and the refrigerator was running the entire time. About day 6, I noticed that the temperatures weren't staying at where I set them. So the refrigerator was set at 45 degrees, and the freezer was set at 0. I noticed that the freezer temperature had warmed up to 28 degrees, and the refrigerator temperature had lowered from 45 to 38 degrees. And I also noticed that there was some frost building up on the freezer side. So I thought, well, maybe it just needs to be defrosted. So I unplugged it. I turned it off for a couple hours. I turned it back on, and everything went back to normal. Don't really think these things are designed to run continuously for an indefinite amount of time. So take that into consideration. But they did send me out a new board. I haven't installed it yet. I guess there's nothing else to do but just go and do it. So let's go do that, shall we? plugged in and you can hear it running. In the owner's manual, there's a couple of scan codes there, one for iOS and one for Android. You scan that and download the application. It'll allow you to operate this fine piece of equipment from your phone. Now that I got my app, I can open it. Okay, use Bluetooth. I have the battery out. AC power's plugged in. Hear that? Beep. I'll start scanning the fridge. I gotta turn it on first. There, turn the fridge on. The right side of the fridge is currently at 68 degrees. And it's set at 28. The left side is currently at 69 and set at 40. So let me look here. The right side is the small side. So let's set that. Let's set that to 0. Let's set that to 0. The refrigerator side set at 40 and the freezer side set at 0. It is currently 2:02. Let's come back in an hour and see how that's working. Okay, looking at the application here on my cell phone, you can see that the current temperature, you also see it's 3:05, hour and 2 minutes later. The current temperature on the freezer side is 7 degrees. It's set at 0. And the current temperature on the refrigerator side is 44 and it's set at 40. So let's go out in the garage and look at the unit itself and see if those numbers are accurate. Oh, it's 44 and 6. Isn't that nice? Oh, it says so right there too. Oh yeah. Nice and cool. So obviously there's pros and cons to buying something like this. This company is just one of many that sell this same style cooler. Doing my research, I found at least 5 different names attached to a cooler that looks just like this. Now, I can't speak to those other brands. They vary in price points. Maybe some of them use better quality refrigeration components in them, and that's a possibility. I don't know. There's several different brands that use the same battery. They look the same other than the plastic's a different color. Some of them are yellow, some are orange, some are green. But they're the same basic cooler or refrigerator freezer. The advantage of buying like an ARB, for example, is that you're buying a name brand that has a customer service network that you can plug into. If anything goes wrong, you can take it to a service center, get it fixed, whatnot. This is warranted for a year. But the downside is you're the customer service department. To the company's credit, they resolved my issue by sending me the part. I had to install it, or I would have to pay somebody to install it, but I had to install it, and I don't have a problem with that. I can do that. You know, at $450 all in, I don't think they can afford to have a customer service network, not at that price point. You're taking a little bit of a risk is what I'm saying. But if you're willing to take that risk, I can tell you that this thing spent 9 days off-road in Death Valley in some pretty sketchy, bouncy, rock-laden, just jar your freaking fillings loose 2-track roads out in Death Valley, and it performed flawlessly. I researched this enough and saw enough videos and enough reviews of this product to feel comfortable enough to go ahead and pull the trigger. I experienced a failure, and the company resolved it, so I'm satisfied with it. And if you're in the market for one of these, you should probably feel comfortable in going ahead and purchasing it. The reason I purchased this one and not the ARB, like I mentioned, is because Those other ones are really expensive. This wasn't. And it runs on batteries. Well, you might be asking, how, if you were out and about for 9 days, how did you charge your batteries? If you couldn't plug into the right port so that the thing could charge, how did you charge your battery? So I bought this power supply. This one is a 12.6 volt power supply, and it came with all these, with several different ends that you could plug into this thing. And I don't know what size that is. It's size G. I'll have to look into it. I'll put a link to this. Euhomy doesn't sell these, but there's a port right here on the battery. Yeah. Well, obviously I can't plug this into the car, or can I? I bought this gem, this little 150 watt power inverter. It has one outlet and a couple USB ports. What I would do in the morning when I put the cooler in the Jeep, I would plug this into the Jeep. I would stick this under the seat, and while we were driving around all day, it would charge up. By the way, it takes about 8 hours to charge this once it's dead. This is the lithium-ion charger for the battery satchel that I built. And same thing, I would plug this into that power inverter and let it charge when I could. With the lithium-ion battery that plugs into the back of the refrigerator freezer and my little battery pack over there, I've got about 3 or 4 nights worth of battery backup that I can plug this thing to when it's not plugged into the vehicle. So I can stay out for a pretty long time before I have to start recharging batteries. But now that that board's fixed, I don't have to worry about it. I can just plug it in and let her go. And then when the refrigerator's not running, it'll be charging the battery. If you're in the market for a dual zone refrigerator freezer for your Jeep or your car or your bus, please consider using the link that's in the description. That way I can get a little bit of a kickback. Doesn't cost you anything extra. If you want to support the channel, there's ways you can do that in the description. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And if you do, click the bell icon, check the boxes, do all the things you need to do to be notified of future uploads. Comment, like, and share, please. That doesn't cost anything, and that helps a lot. You have no idea. Can you do that for me? I'll wait. Did you do it? Thanks, you're awesome. That's all I got for today. Until next time, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep your powder dry, have a splendid day. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.